The raven arrived at Winterfell in the hush before dawn, when the mists still coiled in the godswood like pale serpents and the first uncertain note of a lark trembled upon the air. Maester Luwin found it perched upon the rookery's highest bar, feathers slick with night frost, a silver cylinder bound to its leg. He eased the message free with ink-stained fingers, murmuring soft words meant to calm bird and heart alike, for the wax bore the crowned stag of House Baratheon in deepest crimson, and beneath that, Ned Stark's own direwolf sigil pressed in black. Luwin cracked the seal, unfolded the parchment, and felt the stillness of the keep tilt around him. He did not rush to wake Lord Eddard. Dawn was delicate, and the words upon that parchment were anything but. Instead, the old maester moved through cold corridors, hearing the castle breathe. The grind of portcullis chains in their housings, the muffled clash of weapons as the guard changed upon the battlements, the lowing of cattle in distant yards. In the great hall a lone hearth burned, embers sighing into orange drift while shadows pitched and yawed along stone walls. Luwin warmed his hands, reread the letter twice more, and only then summoned the courage to disturb the Lord of Winterfell. Ned received him in the solar overlooking the courtyard. Gray light struggled through latticework, turning dust motes into falling snowflakes. He had slept in a chair, boots still laced, the pale blade of ice propped within reach. Across restless moons, Ned Stark had learned that letters sealed with red wax seldom bore tidings of grace. Yet this morning his eyes held a different weight, a quiet expectancy, as though some long-gnawed shard of hope might at last surface through the dark. "Tell me," he said, and though the words were soft, they carried the iron of command. Luwin offered the parchment. Ned's gaze flicked over the Baratheon stag, over his own direwolf beneath. The two crests looked suddenly like beasts locked in wary embrace. He broke the seals in a single motion, unfolded and read once, twice, a third time. At the second reading his breath slowed. At the third, the faintest color climbed his cheeks. "By the gods," he whispered, "by all the old and the new." He walked to the embrasure, letter clutched in a fist, and stared south as though King's Landing lay just beyond the frost-rimmed fields instead of half a realm away. Morning broke in earnest, pinking the snows, and Ned Stark stood motionless until the paper crinkled beneath tightening fingers. Then at last he turned back to Luwin. "Summon my sons," he said, "and my daughter Arya. Bran still sleeps. Let him lie. Send for Jon from the yard as well. They must hear this from me and hear it true." Sansa woke to a chorus of bells, their chime chased by the thump of hurried feet in the corridors. She slipped from bed, smoothing a night dress of soft wool, heart fluttering like a caged moth. Bells at dawn meant only weddings, deaths, or great events, and in Winterfell none of those came without rumor weeks in advance. She braided her hair by touch and hurried through silent halls until she found Arya loping barefoot in the opposite direction, hair a wild snarl. "Did you hear?" They began at once, words colliding. Arya rolled her eyes, tugging at Sansa's sleeve. "Father's called us to the solar. Fast as you can, before he grows stern." Stern, thought Sansa. Father is always stern, but she quickened her pace. Servants bowed as they passed. One kitchen girl half curtsied, half ran, a basket of onions tumbling in her arms. Something heavy filled the air, not fear exactly but portent, as though Winterfell's stones themselves awaited proclamation. In the courtyard they saw Jon Snow, breath steaming, sword unpacked from its training wraps. Ghost padded at his heel, red eyes gleaming. Jon's brow knitted at sight of the girls, and together they climbed the spiral stairs to Ned's solar where Robb already stood, hair damp with sweat, a leather jerkin drawn in haste. Ned waited by the window, Maester Luwin beside him. A single scroll lay upon the table, wax broken. No one sat. "My children," Ned said when the door closed. Morning light framed him, streaking his hair with silver. "News has come from King's Landing. Heavy news and swift riding. You are old enough to understand it, and what it may ask of us." He paused, and Sansa saw the small muscles knotting at the corners of his jaw. Robb straightened. Arya rocked upon her heels, impatient. Only Jon stood utterly still, shadows in his eyes. Ned lifted the letter. The king writes that Prince Joffrey, whom we believed heir to the Iron Throne, is no trueborn son of Robert Baratheon. The words struck like iron on anvil. Sansa's breath caught. She remembered golden-haired Joffrey from her brief visit south. Charming, cruel, a prince from songs who turned beast on the Trident's bank. To hear father name him false felt like storm winds tearing banners from their poles. His grace has uncovered proof of Joffrey's bastardy, Ned continued, voice grave. The queen's infidelity, hidden these many years, now stands laid bare before the court and seven alike. He drew a longer breath. King Robert has set aside the boy's claim. By declaration and by royal seal, he has named another to succeed him, should the gods take him or when the throne needs heir. Rob's eyes flicked to the scroll, then to Jon. Tommen? He guessed quietly. Myrcella? Ned shook his head. No, in that single syllable lay wonder and dread entwined. He names Jon. Silence dropped like fresh-fallen snow. Arya's mouth opened and closed. Sansa felt a tingle cascade down her spine. Jon himself did not move, though Ghost paced forward, sniffing at the hearth as if scenting unheard truths. Me? Jon's voice was hardly more than breath. I am a snow father. I have no claim. Ned's eyes were gray winter seas. You are my blood, he said, and blood of my sister. He looked then at Maester Luwin, who stepped forth, unrolling a second parchment bearing spidery names in an old hand. Lady Lyanna's midwife recorded the birth, the Maester said, and his words seemed to echo down corridors 30 years long. She swore the boy to be lawful issue of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark, wedded in secret according to clerics friendly to the crown prince. She kept her notes hidden for fear of Robert's wrath, until now, when his grace commanded every record be brought before the Iron Throne. Jon's lips moved soundlessly. Sansa heard her own heartbeat thrumming in ears gone hot. Prince? Jon, her half-brother, no, cousin now? Son of Rhaegar the Dragon Prince, dead upon the Trident by the very hand of King Robert. Felt like standing upon ice as it cracked. Ned laid a hand on Jon's shoulder. Robert has acknowledged the truth, he said softly. He intends to legitimize you under the name Jon Stark, by royal decree accepted of the faith and the lords of the realm. Beyond that, he wishes you proclaimed heir until such time as lawful issue be born to him. Ned's voice faltered, for Robert's queen remained Cersei Lannister, and no issue of hers would ever be lawful again. Ghost whined deep and low. Jon swallowed. This cannot be, he whispered. The realm would never accept me. The Lannisters. The realm will accept the king's word, Ned answered, though uncertainty clouded him. The Lannisters are lions cornered, more dangerous for it, but Robert's barons will rally to the stag. Yet what matters first is your own will. The king invites you south at once to stand before court, receive his blessing, and take the surname Baratheon if you choose. He offers you Storm's End as prince of the realm. Storm's End, Jon echoed distantly. Robb stepped forward. Jon is a Stark, he said, jaw set. As brother he is ours, and Winterfell's blood flows the same. He looked to Jon, a fierce pride burning. If you go south, I ride with you. Arya's eyes shone. And me, she blurted, then faltered under Sansa's alarmed stare. Or maybe not me, she muttered. Ned allowed himself a thin smile, quickly gone. There may be war, he warned. The queen will not yield her children lightly, and certain lords owe her fealty through gold or bed. Stannis Baratheon is eldest brother to the king. His claim may rise in this confusion. And Renly, I know not what winds fill his sails. We sail uncharted seas. He folded Robert's letter as though tucking away a blade. But first we answer the king's summons. House Stark will ride south within the fortnight. Word will reach Cersei long before we arrive. Best we keep our own counsel and steel. The wall will have to spare you, Jon, for greater oaths now bind you. Tears sprang unbidden to Jon's eyes. The Night's Watch took me, he whispered. They gave me purpose, father. They gave you brotherhood, Ned said. "I would not rob you of that. But the Watch does not ask service of princes, and the realm's need outweighs even the vows of black. You may yet return, when Winter's heart is broken and duty done." He placed his other hand upon Jon's other shoulder, drawing him close, and for a moment the grim lord vanished, replaced by the father who once lifted a boy to see the wall's shadow. "Know this, Jon, whatever name men lay upon you, Snow, Stark, Targaryen, Baratheon, you are my son." For the first time, Jon's composure cracked. He embraced Ned fiercely, whispering words lost to those around. When they parted, his face bore fear still, yet also a quiet resolve, as though a fire had been banked in his chest and now began to glow. Maester Luwin cleared his throat. "We must send reply, my lord. Ravens fly swift, yet rumor swifter." He looked pointedly at Robb, Sansa, Arya, children on the edge of a world grown perilous.
Ned nodded.
"Right that we come," he said. "With all speed the king commands." Then he looked again to his gathered blood. "Go now. Speak none of this beyond these walls, not until I deem it safe. Each of you prepare, for duty marks us all." They filed out, the hush of dawning day giving way to boot steps and hurried breath. Jon was last, ghost-pale but upright, ghost-padding silent. At the stairwell he paused, one hand upon the stone, and looked back once more. Ned still stood by the window, letter in hand, watching snow flurries melt upon the pane as the suns broke bright and pitiless over Winterfell. The road south unfurled like an old scar across the north, wide and pitted, rimed in ice, lined by skeletal oaks whose limbs clacked together overhead. Ned led 200 men-at-arms, their breath plume in the chill, banners snapping. Dire wolf on gray field alongside the crowned stag in gold. At Moat Cailin they received foul tidings. Lords Frey and Redwyne had each taken ship for King's Landing, summoned by Queen Cersei herself. Tywin Lannister was rumored to ride from Casterly Rock with near 10,000 men, though whether toward the capital or elsewhere none could say. The air tasted of iron, war's scent. Jon rode near the column's rear, flanked by Jory Castle and halberdiers sworn to Stark. He wore black still, old habits cling like ivy, but his cloak now bore the direwolf in silver thread, half covered by the swan wing of the watch. Sansa, peering from her litter window, watched him often. The set of his shoulders, the way he held reins with quiet steadiness, as though the weight of the realm already rested in gloved hands. Arya, allowed to ride a shaggy mare called Nymeria, shadowed Jon constantly, peppering him with questions of court and crown until Septa Mordane scolded her horse. At the Trident's green ribbon Ned called halt, and 3 days they lingered among poplar groves where the grass still bore Rhaegar's blood in ghostly whisper. It was there Robert's hammer had shattered the prince's rubied breastplate. There Lyanna's honor died, and Robert's love curdled into fury. Now beneath the rustle of spring leaves, Ned took Jon alone to that stony ford at dusk. "The world will tell you Rhaegar stole my sister," he said, voice low. "Perhaps it was so, perhaps not. But love or abduction, war or politics, none of that shall define you. You are Jon, of my blood and hers, and the realm will know a better peace if you remember both halves of your making." Jon crouched by the water, stones slick beneath boots. In the dying light, the river looked like wine. "Do you believe Robert will keep to this course?" he asked. "If the realm erupts, if war comes, will he set aside crown to save it, or cling tighter?" Ned's mouth tightened. "Robert is more stag than king, given to charge and gore when threatened," he admitted. "Yet he is not without heart. He sees in you a chance at redemption, for Lyanna stolen, for bastards fathered, for sins he scarce confesses to himself." Ned knelt, gathering river stones one by one. "But redemption does not come free. The realm will test you. You must meet each blow with strength and mercy both." Night insects sang. Jon rolled a stone across his palm. "I never sought crown," he murmured. "Nor did I seek lordship, yet duty found me," Ned said. "We do not choose our burdens, only how we bear them." They stood together then, father and son, on ground sanctified by ghostly memories. The trident whispered secrets to reeds, secrets older than dragons or wolves, promises made in blood and grief. Ned Stark laid a hand upon Jon's shoulder once more. "Remember," he said, "when the realm claws at you, remember this river, and the hush of northern nights, and the feel of true steel in your fist. Let them keep you whole." Jon closed fingers over the stone until its edges bit flesh, and nodded. Arrival at King's Landing found the city sweltering beneath unseasonal heat, the air ripe with sweet rot and sea salt. Banners of stag and lion hung from ramparts, though half the lion's cloth looked hastily sewn. Small folk thronged the streets to glimpse the northern host. Tall men in fur cloaks, the direwolf banners, the whisper of a prince unlooked for. Rumor outpaced fact in the manner of wildfire, leaping from thatched roof to merchant stall. Some said Ned brought ice demons to depose the Lannisters. Others swore Jon bore dragon's wings hidden beneath his cloak, that he would burn the red keep to glass. In truth, they entered quietly by the river gate at dusk. Ser Barristan Selmy met them with a detail of white cloaks, his lined face carved from granite. "His grace awaits in the throne room," he said, bowing to Ned. "Bring the boy." He cast a glance at Jon, grave, searching, then led the way through echoing corridors where torch flames painted tapestries crimson. The throne room loomed vast and starless, lit by iron braziers. Robert Baratheon sat upon the iron throne, one leg bandaged, crown askew, face florid with wine yet eyes clear as Ned had not seen in years. At the foot of the dais stood Cersei Lannister, stiff in cloth of gold, hands clasped so tight white knuckles showed. At her flanks glimmered Jaime Lannister in gilded mail and Sandor Clegane half-shadowed, while Grand Maester Pycelle hunched near steps, fingers folded like hesitant spiders. Robert rose, every plate of steel groaning. "Ned," he roared, the word echoing through vaults. "And the boy, come forward." They advanced. Jon felt the room's heat lash him. Sweat gathered beneath his collar. The throne's twisted blades pointed like accusation down at the hall. Robert halted them 5 steps below, gaze sweeping over Jon from boots to hair. "So," he rumbled, "son of Rhaegar, raised as snow, bound for black, now stands before me a prince." He chuckled, a sound like rockfall. "7 hells, lad, you've Stark written all over that long face. But Rhaegar's eyes, mayhaps. A queer mix." Jon bowed. "Your grace," Robert grunted. "I'm not your grace yet, not truly. A king who cannot bequeath his crown is half a king." His voice hardened. "So let us mend that, Maester." Pycelle shuffled forward, proffering a parchment ribboned in blue seal. Robert seized it, broke wax with thumb, and read loud enough for galleries to mark each word. He named Jon son of Prince Rhaegar and Lady Lyanna, legitimized by witness of faith and crown, to take surname Baratheon unless he prefer Targaryen afore Spring's End. He granted Storm's End and all its incomes, named Jon Prince of Dragonstone and Protector of the Realm, first in line to the Iron Throne, until such time as Robert of House Baratheon issue lawful offspring born of untainted marriage. The words hung like forged chains. Finished, Robert thrust the decree to Ned, who signed. Jon's hand shook when he took the quill, yet he wrote Jon in bold dark strokes, snow scored out beneath by Robert's impatient slash. Then Jon Stark Baratheon inked anew alongside. Cersei's smile was a blade. "Well done, my king," she said, voice honeyed. "Your new heir bears a noble name. Shall we tie a gold cloak round him, or perhaps black to remind us whence he came?" Jaime laughed softly, but Robert's glare silenced both. "Speak not, woman." He turned to Jon. "There will be whispers, boy, of dragons and usurpers. Are you dragon or wolf?" Jon met his gaze. "I am the realm's servant, sire. Whatever sigil I fly." Robert seemed to ponder that. A tidy answer. "Yet words are wind. Soon you'll need iron." He stepped down a tread, the crown glinting. "Kneel." Jon did, the stone cool on his knees. Robert drew his warhammer. Not the gilded mockery of tourney fields, but the real thing, black iron crowned with steel stags, edges nicked from years of slaughter. He laid the haft upon Jon's shoulders. "In the name of the warrior, I charge you to defend the realm," he intoned, voice deep as drums. "In the name of the Father, I charge you to bring justice." He lifted the hammer. For a moment Jon feared he would strike. Instead, Robert set the weapon aside and offered a hand. "Rise, Jon Stark of houses Baratheon and Stark, Prince of Dragonstone." Applause rippled, some hearty, some polite, some withheld. Jaime's smirk thinned. Cersei's ringed fingers whitened. Sandor Clegane watched with eyes like smoke. Among the white cloaks, Ser Boros frowned, while Ser Barristan's face remained unreadable stone. Sansa, high in the gallery beside Arya, wept silent, joyous tears, though she knew not why. Jon rose. "Now," Robert said, slapping broad palm upon Jon's shoulder. "We drink." That night Storm's End was Jon's in name, yet the Red Keep's mazy corridors felt more prison than palace. Lords clustered in antechambers, each eager to pledge fealty to the new prince or to gauge weakness. Stannis arrived late and alone, eyes burning like tallow. He bowed stiffly to Jon. "Storm's End should pass to me by right," he said, voice grating. "But for the good of the realm, I will not contest for now. Remember, Prince, duty ranks above blood." Renly smiled broader, offered easy jokes, but the mirth never reached his eyes. Varys slithered through crowds, purring of whispered legends and plotting futures. Littlefinger tipped a goblet to Jon, amusement curling his lips. By midnight Jon slipped free, ascending a tower stair to breathe sea air. Ghost padded silent at his heel. Moonlight silvered the city roofs. The Blackwater Bay lay like molten glass. Yet even here whispers found him. Steel rasp, boots upon stone. He turned as a figure stepped from shadow. Jaime Lannister, black cloak swirling, one hand on gilded sword hilt. "My sister thinks you a pawn," Jaime said conversationally. "My father thinks you a nuisance. I find you interesting. Do you truly mean to sit the Iron Throne someday?" Jon kept his voice steady. "I mean to serve the realm." "A saint, then?" Jaime's smile glinted. "Saints fare poorly in this city." He twirled a lock of gold hair. "Tell me, Prince, are you dragon enough to burn those who betray you, or will you freeze them with northern ice? Either way, keep your sword sharp." He pivoted away, boots clicking, and melted into dark. Left alone, Jon placed hands upon cold battlement stone. Below, torchlight painted the courtyard. Ned spoke with Jory, while Maester Luwin conferred with Ser Barristan. Robb sparred softly with a guardsman, testing sword angles by moon. The world stirred, restless. The crown was yet distant, but already its shadow pressed upon Jon's shoulders. 6 weeks later, the crown's weight came home in blood. The council chamber stank of parchment and stale wine. King Robert slouched upon the chair of state, cheeks hollowing, as Grand Maester Pycelle read out a sealed indictment. Ser Kevan Lannister hereby charged with conspiring to hide the bastardy of Joffrey Baratheon, misleading the crown, and plotting violence against the hand of the king. Trial to be set before the king's justice or by combat, at Ser Kevan's choosing. Tywin Lannister's reply arrived swift. A raven bearing a single lion-red sheet. No words, only a golden handprint in wax. To the council all present understood. The lion would not bow. Within a fortnight Lannister banners rose in the west, while Stannis summoned his fleet at Dragonstone, citing Robert's bastard children as proof of a corrupted line and demanding council of succession. Renly vanished from court, taking his household knights toward Highgarden. In the God's Wood of the Red Keep, Ned found Jon kneeling beside the black pool. Cypress branches wove a green roof above. The city's din felt miles away. "War comes," Jon said as Ned approached. "No greeting, just the truth. 3 kings may rise from one crown, for counting me." Ned sank to his haunches beside him. 3 kings and 1 prince, he corrected softly. "You need not claim what the realm would contest by sword. We hold fast. Robert yet reigns, and while he does, your duty is to learn, not rule." "Will Robert live?" Jon asked, voice low. He bleeds from a wound gone septic. An accident on the hunt, Pycelle says. Doubt coiled in the words. Ned's breath clouded the evening air. We watch the queen, he said. We watch Pycelle, and we pray. I have arranged escort should we need quit the city. He touched the hilt of ice, sheathed across his back. But we cannot flee before sin shows its fangs. Robert needs you, Jon. The realm needs you, if only as promise that better days may come. Jon looked to the sky through rustling leaves. If war claims him, they will tear me apart for the throne. Then we'll weather that storm together. Ned's hand closed around Jon's wrist. A heartbeat passed, and for the first time since Winterfell, Jon smiled. A brittle arc, but real. Whatever God forged us, Ned murmured, did not mean us to break. Robert died 3 days later. Some swore his wound turned black from corruption. Others whispered poison in his wine, a queen's mercy for a king who would unseat her heirs. The royal decree naming Jon Heir lay upon the council table, sealed and witnessed. But Cersei locked herself in Maegor's holdfast with Tommen and Myrcella, refusing to yield the crown or the body of her dead son Joffrey, who still styled himself prince in Golden Tomb inside September of Baelor. The halls of the Red Keep rang with clamor, each great house descending like carrion bird. Tyrell riders camped outside city walls. Stannis' fleet blockaded Blackwater Bay. Lannister soldiers held the gold cloaks in thrall of coin. In that crucible, Jon learned the art of survival. How to weigh a man's eyes against his words. How to speak with the king's voice though his own hands trembled. On the night before the coronation council, Varys came to Jon's chambers cloaked in lavender silks. The realm grows thin, the spider said, seating himself uninvited. Strings have been pulled too taut, and soon they will snap. He smiled, soft and ominous. Your Highness must choose what string to cut first. I choose peace, Jon said. If the Lannisters lay down arms, I will not pursue vengeance. Varys sighed.
A noble intention.
Yet lions seldom surrender their claws. Better to guide them into cage of your making. Offer Cersei safe exile in Casterly Rock. Tommen named Lord of Lannisport, and Myrcella wed to a Dornish prince. In exchange, her father withdraws his banners. Appease the lion, placate the rose, then turn to the stag. Jon hesitated. And Stannis? His claim rests upon law. Offer him seat as hand. He will bristle, but lawful men prefer parchment to war. Give him Dragonstone's revenues. Let him steer ships instead of kingdoms. Jon paced, ghost tracking each stride. You would have me juggle lions and stags with one hand, roses and vipers with the other, all while the realm bleeds. Varys' eyes glittered. Better a juggler than a butcher. Remember, Prince, those who trade crowns for swords often end without heads. When the eunuch departed, Jon stood before a tarnished mirror. Candlelight flickered across his face, half shadow, half gold. He saw Rhaegar's high cheekbones, Lyanna's gray eyes, Ned's solemn brow, and something else, something unborn, forging itself in the furnace of King's Landing. He donned a black doublet embroidered with silver direwolves, buckled on Longclaw at his hip, Valyrian steel gifted by Ned, pommel carved as snarling wolf. Outside, a bell tolled. Ghosts of kings past stirred in its echo. Tomorrow he would face the lords of Westeros, present the king's decree, and stake his life upon parchment and blood. Tomorrow the game would truly begin. Dawn broke upon the throne room in shards of rose and gold. Lords stood ranked like chessmen. Stannis in black and crimson, Renly resplendent in green, Tyrell knights behind, Hoster Tully pallid yet fierce, Dorne's Prince Doran in wheeled chair, and Tywin Lannister looming armored red, flanked by ranks of red cloaks. Cersei sat where queens seldom dared, atop the steps below the throne, Joffrey's crown held in white-knuckled grasp. Tommen and Myrcella clung at her side, their golden hair catching sunlight. Ser Barristan called the hall to order. Jon entered, ghost banished by command, Ned beside him. Murmurs rippled like wind across wheat. Stannis stepped forward. I claim the Iron Throne by right of birth, he said, voice ringing. Robert leaves no trueborn sons. The Baratheon line passes to me. Renly laughed, bright as summer. Beloved brother, you're old as Maester Gorman and twice as sour. The realm needs a younger flower. Tywin's gaze never left Jon. The decree naming this boy heir was signed under duress, he said at last, every syllable a mailed fist. Robert lay dying, drugged by maesters, pressed by treasonous counsel. It holds no power. Ned Stark's hand rested upon ice. I bore witness, he said. The king's mind was clear. The decree stands. Cersei rose. You would place a dragon's bastard upon my son's throne? She hissed, eyes blazing green wildfire. I say no. I say let the realm decide at sword point if need be. Jon stepped to the center. The hall fell to hush. He drew Longclaw, its rippled steel shimmering, and knelt, offering the blade pommel first to Ser Barristan. I will face any champion, he said, voice steady. To prove my right, trial by combat as law allows. Gasps, a flutter of excitement. Jaime Lannister's smile spread. I shall be champion for my sister, he announced, golden armor gleaming. Stannis bristled. The gods do not favor boasts. I will stand for law. Renly rolled eyes. 2 champions? The hall will turn market fair. Let the boy fight one, then the other.
Ser Barristan lifted hand.
Hold. Trial by combat must pit accuser against accused. There is but one accusation. That Prince Jon's decree is false. Let one champion fight for that claim, and he may choose one to defend. Jaime's grin sharpened. Then I will unsheathe my sword for truth, or at least my sister's version. I turned to Jon. Ned stepped forward, but Jon lifted palm. I will fight, he said. Let their lion face the wolf. Ned's protest died upon his lips as Jon rose, eyes calm. The hall erupted. Lords shouted, wagers flew. Cersei's smile showed teeth. Ser Barristan called order, naming the trial at dawn on the morrow. In the godswood beneath Weirwood and Sep's shadow. Let the gods decide who shall wear the crown. Night stretched thin and restless. Jon stood within armory, torchlight reflecting off rows of polished mail. Ned entered, cloaked in silence. You need not do this, he said. I must, Jon replied. Ned's voice roughened. Jaime Lannister is no hedge knight. He killed King Aerys without a blink. Jon buckled Longclaw's sheath. Then let him kill another king's son. He looked to Ned, a wry lift of lips. But I mean to test his blade first. They clasped wrists. No words sufficed. At last Ned said, remember your lessons. Patience, footwork, guard high against his feints. And should the worst happen, no Winterfell stands with you. Jon nodded. And I with Winterfell. In the courtyard Robb waited. They sparred by moon. 30 passes, blades ringing sparks. Sweat dappled cloaks, but neither spoke. Their language was steel. At last Robb stepped back, chest heaving. I tried every trick Ser Roderick taught, he said. If Jaime beats you, gods help us all. Jon managed a breathless smile. Then I best not fall. Arya, lurking behind a bale of straw, darted forward. Jaime's knee likes to slip, she said solemnly. Watch for it when he pivots on the left. She demonstrated in quick footwork, tiny and fierce. Sansa scolded her from walkway, but Arya only stuck tongue. Jon laughed, and some of the night's dread peeled away. They parted before dawn. Jon knelt in the sept, lighting a candle to the 7 despite northern blood. In the still, any god who listened would suffice. The godswood of King's Landing lacked Winterfell's ancient solemnity, but the red leaves still whispered of deep-rooted truths. Lords gathered in ring, white cloaks among them, gold cloaks hedging the perimeter. Sunlight dappled sword hilts and mail. Jaime Lannister strode in gold armor singing. He bowed to the weirwood, mocking flourish. Jon walked opposite, clad in gray leather, Longclaw naked in hand. A hush settled. Ser Barristan lifted arm. Begin. Jaime attacked like lightning, blade flashing in low arc. Jon parried, sidestepped, riposte glancing off Jaime's pauldron. Steel on steel rang cathedral loud. Jaime pressed, feint high then slash low. Jon jumped back, boots skidding on wet grass. Red leaves drifted overhead. They circled. Jaime's grin was feral. Quick, for a bastard. Slash slash, a dizzying flurry. Jon blocked each, though arms numbed. He recalled Robb's training. Wait, draw him in, find the knee. Jaime lunged again. Jon gave ground, baiting. On the third lunge, Jon twisted, catching Jaime's downswing upon Longclaw's crossguard, pivoted there, left knee overextended. Jon drove shoulder into Jaime's chest, toppled him. The crowd gasped as lion and wolf rolled in torn grass, blades scraping. Jaime righted first, but Jon's boot met his knee square, crack. Jaime roared, staggered. Blood ran down golden greave. Rage lit Jaime's eyes. He charged, overhead blow. Jon raised Longclaw in two hands. Block met strike like thunder. Jaime's sword slid off, clattered. Jon kicked it away. He leveled his blade at Jaime's throat. Silence drenched the grove. Leaves fell like crimson snow. I yield. Jaime hissed through teeth. Ser Barristan stepped forward, voice carrying. The gods have spoken. Prince Jon stands rightful heir. Cheers from Stark men, murmurs among others. Tywin's face became granite cliff. Cersei turned, sweeping her children away, cloak flaring like black fire. Jaime limped to retrieve sword, glaring but silent. Jon lowered Longclaw, breath ragged. He felt no triumph, only relief, and a dawning weight heavier than any sword. 3 weeks later, Jon Baratheon sat the Iron Throne. The coronation smelled of candles and smoke, incense and sweat. Stannis knelt first, stiff as iron. Renly followed, all green velvet.
Tyros bent nie, Martell stipt het, even door Noordmen bouwt.
Only Tywin Lannister remained standing, but at last he inclined in grudging respect. Oaths won by treaties inked in midnight hours. Jon wore a crown of black iron chased with silver direwolves and stag's antlers. His cloak bore direwolf sigil alongside crowned stag entwined. At ceremony's end, he raised Ned Stark as hand, Stannis as master of ships, Renly as Lord of Storm's End restored, Tywin as Warden of the West under condition of peace. He granted Cersei safe exile to Casterly Rock, Tommen its lord, Myrcella promised to Trystane Martell. Jaime remained Kingsguard, albeit one-kneed, bound to chastity oath far sterner than before. Some called him Jon the Just Before Moon's End. Others named him the Bastard King behind closed doors, and still others whispered dragon's blood would out in wildfire yet. But in those first quiet weeks, grain flowed to riverlands, taxes eased upon north, and ships crossed summer sea unmolested. Yet even peace bears shadows. Far north, beyond wall, wildlings gathered under banners of giants and weirwood skulls, murmuring of white shadows stalking forest gloom. Across narrow sea, dragons hatched in secret hearths, and a pale girl with silver hair dreamed of reclaiming her father's throne. Within Red Keep, Jon walked parapets nightly, Longclaw at hip, ghost at heel. The city spread like a jeweled cloak beneath moon. He thought of Winterfell's clean snows, of Robb laughing in yard, Arya shouting at sparrows, Sansa humming under apple trees. The throne room rocked behind him, a sea of blades ready to drown any man. He laid a hand upon Ghost's fur. "This is only beginning," he whispered. The direwolf gazed east, where dawn's faint glow tinged sky. Tomorrow's wars waited, patient. Thus the realm balanced upon a prince who never sought crown, and all the kingdoms held their breath. The river wind carried a trace of salt into the council chamber, so faint it might have been a memory rather than a scent. Jon had ordered the shutters raised at dawn, craving air that did not taste of dust and candle grease. Yet even fresh breeze could not ease the tension woven through the room like taut string. Maps lay spread across the table, crackling parchment inked with borders that had shifted more in 6 moons than in the 6 decades before, and each lord studied them with eyes half-guarded, half-hungry. Stannis stood rigid near the hearth, arms folded across the Baratheon heart crowned by a fiery sword. a device he had taken to wearing since the Red Priestess arrived upon a storm-lashed night. Renly lounged opposite, playing impatience with a fingertip drumming silent staccato upon the arm of his chair. Tywin Lannister watched them both, lids half lowered, the flicker of brazier flames reflecting in his pupils like twin coins. Between them, Ned Stark presided in weathered leather and gray wool, his stillness the surest anchor in the chamber's uneasy tide. Jon rested elbows on map edge, hands laced. Sleep had been brief. His dreams swirled with sword rings and fluttering ravens, but dawn gave no reprieve. Reports from the north? Ned nodded to Ser Roderick, who stepped forward smelling of saddle soap and steel. Deepwood Mott holds fast, but bannermen near the stony shore swear wildling raiders strike in numbers unseen for a lifetime. They burn villages, yet their fear is plain. They flee something darker. The Black Brothers send word of strange dead rising beyond the wall, eyes blue as frozen seas. Around the table, chains rattled as maesters shifted. The Red Priestess, Melisandre, glided closer, red silk whispering. Her ruby gleamed with inner fire. "The cold shadow stirs," she said, voice as smooth as poured wine. "Azor Ahai reborn must ride to meet it." Renly rolled his eyes, murmuring to Ser Loras too softly for others to catch. Tywin's expression never flickered. Jon felt the weight of every gaze, some openly doubtful, some calculating, some already resigned to believe anything after the year's tumults. He exhaled. "We cannot fight whispers with lances. I need proof before mustering half the realm against Frostghouls. Maester Aemon at Castle Black served 4 kings. His word will sway doubters. Ser Roderick, send ravens seeking a full account. Names, numbers, any recovered bodies for the Citadel." Stannis's jaw tightened. "While we quibble over ghosts, the Dornish gather spears along the Bone Way. Prince Doran claims only to escort his niece to her betrothed, yet our scouts count thrice the escort promised. Dornish armies seldom march north without purpose." Tywin's voice slid across the map like a blade. "If Dorne postures, we remind them how the Reach and Stormlands strangle their trade. A polite message, signed by Prince Jon, should suffice." Renly smirked. "You mistake sand for silk, Lord Tywin. Dornish pride yields to steel only after blood is spilled, and bleeds warm still in memory of Elia and her children. Threats will sour the match to Myrcella before the barges leave Sunspear." Jon raised a hand. "Enough. We answer sand with courtesy and caution both. Lord Baelish, you'll draft a letter reaffirming Myrcella's dowry and safe conduct. Lord Varys will quietly learn what numbers march and who commands them. If swords cross, I will see to it Dorne knows we sought peace first." Littlefinger dipped his chin, cool poised. Varys offered a delicate clap of soft hands. Yet Jon sensed Tywin's displeasure in stiffened shoulders. The lion disliked half measures, but compromise was a coin a young king must learn to spend freely. When the council dispersed near noon, the Red Priestess lingered at the threshold. "The long night gathers," she murmured, scarlet sleeve brushing Jon's arm. "Ambition and gold and Southron feuds will shrivel to ash when true darkness falls. You must seek the sword that glows, your grace. Only its flame can make you king of light." Her presence unsettled Jon in ways swords could not. He inclined his head in cautious courtesy. "I'll remember," he said, though he knew not what remembering meant. She smiled, an expression too knowing by half, and drifted away, leaving the scent of smoke and strange spices in her wake. In the training yard below the keep, steel clashed like bells in a funeral procession. Robb Stark's red hair whipped in the sun as he drove Ser Jaime Lannister back with a savage overhand cut. Jaime, knee braced beneath gilded greave, parried, riposted, and the dance resumed, both swordsmen gleaming with sweat. Watching from balcony, Sansa clasped her hands, caught between pride and dread. The young wolf had grown leaner, harder. In King's Landing he found foes enough to sharpen every edge of heart and blade. Yet Jaime, though hobbled, wielded his sword like a painter's brush, every stroke precise, elegant, dangerous. Jon descended stone stairs in time to see Jaime faint low, then twist, pommel catching Robb's ribs. Robb grunted, retreated 2 steps, and reset his guard. Nearby Arya mirrored the feint with a wooden sword, scowling in concentration while Syrio Farrell barked soft instructions. Balance, little cat. Water dancer moves with tide, not against. She lunged at a straw dummy twice her height. Ghost padded at Jon's heel. The direwolf's presence emptied practice rings as boys stepped aside, wary of red eyes and silent menace. Jon halted near the combatants. Neither Robb nor Jaime broke focus, but the tempo shifted subtly, a brother's scrutiny adding weight to each motion. Jaime's grin flashed. Care for another lesson, Your Grace? We did not finish our first. Robb disengaged, nodding respect. If His Grace wishes to stain the yard with lion blood, I'll fetch a clean cloth. Jon shook his head. Battlefields decide enough crowns. Today I watch. Jaime inclined in mocking bow, then attacked anew, this time slower, measured. Robb met him stroke for stroke, and Jon studied each pivot. The weak slide of Jaime's left foot, Robb's tendency to overcommit on disengage. Wars might wait at borders, but in a yard lives hung on such flaws. He made mental note to press the Kingsguard into training young officers. Jaime's pride might chafe, but his skill would breed harder steel. The bout ended when Robb stepped inside Jaime's reach, hooking blade behind knee brace and forcing a stumble Jaime could not recover. Dust puffed as golden armor struck ground. Robb offered a hand. After a pause, Jaime accepted, jaw clenched. Laughter rippled among onlookers. Less mocking than relieved, the tension of lion and wolf replaced by simple sport. Jon applauded once, then motioned Arya over. She bounded, cheeks flushed. Did you see, Jon? Syrio says my point lands true 7 of 10. Syrio bowed flourishingly. She is quick as summer lightning, but lightning must learn when to strike. Jon knelt. Remember, the heart beats slow beneath armor. Quick blades need patience too. He tapped her wood practice sword. Smooth your breathing before each thrust. A calm mind guides faster than nervous limbs. She nodded solemnly, then dashed back to dummy. Robb wiped brow. Small things hold us together, brother. Swords on practice sand, better than swords on battlefields. Jon's smile was rueful. Battle may come whether we practice or not. Best be ready. He lowered voice. I'll speak with you tonight. Plans for the North. Robb's blue eyes brightened, purpose gleaming. The North remembers, he said. That evening Jon dined privately with Ned and Catelyn in the solar overlooking the rush. Sunset painted the river crimson. Gulls wheeled, screaming. Steel helms glinted on city walls. Sentinels doubled as rumors of Lannister plots multiplied. Catelyn poured arbor red, her face drawn but composed. I dream of Winterfell, she confessed after the first cup. Of the heart tree, branches heavy with snow. Here, even the shadows feel wrong. Jon understood. I would return you north tomorrow if I could, he said. Until the realm settles, it is safest for the Starks inside these walls. Walls can turn to cages, Ned murmured, gaze distant. But your mother wolf will guard lightly if pups stray near lion dens. Jon looked to his father, no, his uncle, yet father in every bond that mattered. I intend to send Robb, Grey Wind at his side, with 2,000 Northmen to Moat Cailin. A show of strength without provoking war. He'll secure the neck, relieve Deepwood, and reinforce Castle Black. Reports from the wall grow bleaker. Catelyn's jaw tightened. Robb is young, yet the weight you heap on him grows heavier. He carries it well, Jon answered, and the North trusts his banner more than mine. Rumors of dragons make uneasy friends. Ned nodded agreement. Robb commands their loyalty through blood and presence. It is wise. I will write Lord Manderley to send ships to Eastwatch, link supply lines. Jon poured another measure of wine. Stannis counsels bringing the Red Priestess north, claims her flames show visions. I distrust fires I do not kindle, but if winter's tales prove true. Ned's hand tightened on goblet. Magic is a sword without hilt. It wounds bearer and foe alike. They fell silent, torches flickering. Outside, bells tolled 7th hour. Faint festival music drifted from Flea Bottom, as if common folk could banish fear through song. Jon wondered at their resilience. Kings fell, lords schemed, yet bread still baked, babes still cried, lovers still met by moon. He rose. I must address the captains of the Mudgate before second watch. Thank you for faith and for counsel. He kissed Catelyn's hand, clasped Ned's forearm. Winterfell's heart beats here, he said. I feel it. Descending spiral stairs, ghost a silent shadow, Jon rehearsed tomorrow's proclamations. Grain tithes eased in the Riverlands, new coin minted to pay wall builders, trade envoys to Dorne. Each decree a stone in a bridge across fractured realm, but bridges required pillars sunk deep. Near the Scorpion Tower, he found Samwell Tarly huddled beside a brazier, parchment rolls clutched protectively. The Night's Watch envoy had arrived 2 days past, cheeks chapped from rime, bearing Maester Aemon's sealed plea. Jon halted. Sam, he greeted. Still awake. Samwell jolted, nearly dropping scrolls. Jon, your grace, forgive me. I was copying Maester Aemon's observations for the Citadel Archmesters. Ink dries slow in this damp. Jon gestured toward a niche alcove. Walk with me. They paced courtyard battlements where lanterns guttered. Sam eased into nervous speech. The wildlings speak of a king beyond the wall. Mance Rayder rallies them under a banner stitched of skins. Giant, crow, wolf. They flee south not to raid, but to live. Something hunts them. Jon listened. And the watch. 200 at East Watch, 400 at Castle Black. Scarcely 100 at Shadow Tower. Hardly half fit to fight. Rangers vanish beyond the haunted forest. Maester Aemon presses for aid, steel, horses, men. He writes of dead things that walk. Jon stopped beside crenellation, staring north though city sprawl blocked the view. Tell Aemon help ride soon. Robb Stark leads 2,000 with 100 smiths and masons to harden the wall. Grain, dragonglass from Dragonstone Quarry, maesters for healing. The realm will not abandon its shield. Sam's eyes brimmed. I'll write at once. He hesitated. Your grace, brothers whisper you might ride north yourself. Is it true? Jon laid a hand on Sam's shoulder. A king serves where needed. For now my place is here, holding realm together so winter may be faced united. But my heart rides with them. Moon set over King's Landing in a haze of pearl. In chambers once occupied by dragon kings, Jon dismissed guards and sat alone at writing desk. The stillness hummed. He drew parchment, dipped quill, began a letter to Daenerys Targaryen. He had never written her name before. Tales reached Westeros. Silver-haired girl across narrow sea, mother of 3 hatchlings. Yet rumor blurred truth. Jon penned carefully. To Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen, I am Jon, by birth son of Lyanna Stark and Rhaegar Targaryen. By decree of King Robert crowned Prince of Dragonstone, and now set upon the Iron Throne by will of the realm. Blood binds us. Duty summons us. He paused, quill suspended. What could bridge gulf of grievances? He spoke of White Walkers, of need for dragon's flame, of his promise to rule justly, not as usurper but as shield of the living. He invited parley at Dragonstone under banners of truce, offering safe passage to her and council of scholars to nurture dragons. He closed. The dawn belongs to those who strive beyond the sins of fathers. In hope, Jon of houses Targaryen and Stark, king of the Undulls, the Rhoynar, and the First Men, protector of the realm. He sealed letter in black wax pressed with direwolf stag. Ghost tilted head, ears twitching. Do you think she'll answer? Jon asked the wolf. Ghost blinked, silent, as if to say answers rarely come, only more questions. He set scroll aside. Another parchment awaited. A letter from Brienne of Tarth, recently confirmed captain of the newly minted Queen's Guard, renamed in honor of Myrcella's betrothal. Her neat script reported Renly traveling the Stormlands, rallying lords for Crown's cause, though some boys whispered he courted his own banners still. Jon sighed. Renly's charm could warm stone, but ambition smoldered beneath. A knock disturbed silence. Ser Baratheon entered, white cloak catching candlelight. "Your Grace," he said softly, "a rider from Riverrun. Lord Hoster Tully has taken to his sickbed. Lady Catelyn's presence is requested." Jon folded parchment. "Arrange escort at first light. 10 mounted. Banner of peace. Lord Tywin must be notified. He will scent opportunity otherwise." Baratheon bowed, yet lingered. "I served your grandsire," he said. "Aerys was cruel, but he was king. I broke oath once to end tyranny. I will not break it again. If darkness rises beyond the wall, I ride at your side." Jon rose, laying hand on the old knight's arm. "Your oath already shields me, Ser. When winter comes, the realm will need its finest blade here." Baratheon inclined head and departed. Jon stared at the flame of the single candle. In its dance he saw a map of futures branching. North in peril, south in intrigue, east in dragonfire. Each path demanded a different king, yet he remained only one man. He snuffed the candle and let darkness claim the room. Days bled into one another like watercolors. Edicts were signed, audiences granted, petitions heard. Septons prayed for peace. Merchants begged for coin to rebuild burned caravans. Jon tasted bitterness in each decision. Grant too much, treasury groaned. Grant too little, starving peasants turned brigand. The Iron Throne's barbs pricked not only flesh but conscience. In court one noon, a commotion rose beyond holly-crested doors. 2 lords burst arguing, Lord Gilbert Farwind of the Lonely Light and Ser Harris Harlaw, both ironborn envoys, each accusing other of treachery in Kingsmoot negotiations. Jon quelled them with measured words, yet their very presence foretold storms. Balon Greyjoy's fleet scouted western coasts once more, sniffing chance amid mainland turmoil. Tywin urged preemptive strike. Stannis argued patience. Ned advocated watchful defense. That night Jon walked the Red Keep ramparts with Tyrion Lannister. The dwarf served now as master of coin, a choice met with murmurs but also grudging respect. The kingdom's ledgers improved under his wry scrutiny. He swung a leather flask of blackberry wine, offered Jon a swallow. "I count dragons on parchment, your grace," Tyrion said, lips purpled. "Gold dragons, silver stags, copper stars. They breed slower than rumors."
"Va dreng koffer swift."
Jon drank, savoring sweet tartness. Lanterns bobbed along the street of silk below, the city's pulse quick in summer heat. "How long can realm afford peace?" he asked. "Peace is cheaper than war, but dear all the same," Tyrion replied. "Feed hungry small folk, man the wall, rebuild torched villages. Silver flows like river water downhill. Raise taxes too high, rebellion seeds itself." Jon wiped mouth with sleeve. "Find new streams. Trade pacts with Pentos, Volantis, maybe Karth for spices. If Daenerys crosses sea, we'll need allies beyond." Tyrion snorted. "Karth loves gold more than gods. Offer them port fees and they'll sell your socks to bravos." He leaned on crenellation. "Speaking of crossing seas, rumor says a Sell-Sail captain saw 3 dragons above Slaver's Bay. If true, your sister cousin wields a weapon no treasury can buy." A chill slid down Jon's spine despite warm night. "Then I must convince her fire should temper ice, not melt crowns." "A worthy hope," Tyrion mused. "Yet dragons dance poorly with wolves and stags." He offered flask again. Jon declined. Tyrion drank deeply, then toasted invisible moons. "To improbable alliances," he said, voice wistful, and shuffled away into lantern glow. The first raven from Castle Black arrived 2 mornings later. Its feathers rhymed with frost, though summer lingered south. Jon slit the tube with haste. Eamon's words were terse. Ranger party led by Benjen Stark missing 10 days. Tracks lost in haunted forest. Snow falls though season wrong. Wolves flee south in packs. Request urgent aid. Jon closed eyes. Benjen was once a brother to him in all but name. He summoned Ned at once. They spoke in war room, torches guttering. Ned's face grayed at letter. "Benjen lives," he said, "but doubt tinged timber." He knows forest as Maester knows scrolls. Jon laid map across table. 2,000 ride soon, but even swiftest cannot reach wall in days. A smaller spearhead, 50 knights, mounted garrons, led by one the watch trusts, could push through King's Road faster. Ned met his eyes. Understanding passed unspoken. You intend to ride. I know the wall, Jon said. The Black Brothers will follow my word. If wildlings congregate, parley may spare blood. And if the dead walk, Dragonstone's dragonglass may be answer. Ned's fists clenched. The realm needs its king here. Jon's voice softened. The realm needs a living king when long night falls. I trust you and the council. Ghost will guide me. Robb holds the north. Stannis commands fleet. A moon's absence at most. Ned exhaled through nose. I once told you we do not choose our burdens, only how we bear them. Very well. I will stand regent till your return. Relief mingled with apprehension. I leave at dusk. Choose 40 men you trust.
Ned nodded.
I will ride part way, then turn south to rally Northmen at Moat Cailin. The people must see Stark and King together. He placed hand on Jon's shoulder. Come back, son. I will, Jon vowed, though the words felt like fragile glass. Preparations spun like windmill. Arya stole into armory demanding to ride with him. Sansa wept but helped pack furs and black-dyed surcoats. Catelyn prayed in September of Baelor. Robb sharpened Longclaw's edge himself, strokes deliberate as benediction. The Red Priestess appeared, offering a vial of crimson oil. Anoint your blade, and it will burn in darkness, she promised. Jon accepted, unsure whether courtesy or faith moved his hand. At dusk his column assembled beneath the Gate of the Gods. 43 riders in stark grays and Baratheon blacks, banner of direwolf stag snapping. Ghost bounded ahead, snow pale against cobbles. The city watched in restless hush. Some believed the king fled conspirators, others that he rode to slay dragons. Beneath twilight's hush neither rumor held sway, only the iron beat of hooves and heart. Ned rode to the archway, dismounted, and embraced him. The north rides beside you, he said. Remember the words. Winter is coming, Jon answered. Their hands clasped, then parted. Ned stepped back. Horns blew. Gates groaned open. Jon spurred Shadow, the black courser gifted by Brienne. Behind him thunder rolled. Knights, squires, pack mules, ravens in wicker crates. The city fell away like flicked dust, replaced by darkening fields and the long white ribbon of King's Road stretching into gathering night. He felt lightness, fear, yes, but freedom too. The throne's iron talons loosened. Air tasted of pine, earth, approaching frost. By moonrise they camped among birch thickets. Jon walked perimeter, ghost at heel, stars sharp above. In their cold shine he sensed destiny converging northward, drawn by tide none could stem. He slept beneath pine, dreams filled with blue eyes and cracking ice. When dawn came golden, he rose with sword in hand, breath plume in early chill. The march began. 3 nights later they reached the inn at the crossroads, finding it abandoned save for crows pecking spilled grain. A child's doll lay face down in mud, limbs chewed by rats. Signs of flight, not battle. Jon ordered supplies gathered, left gold stacked on ledger desk. A king must pay even when seller fled. Southward horizon glowed with distant fires. Bandits, perhaps, or feud between minor houses unsettled by crowns shifting. Jon ached to ride quell flames, but north pulled like lodestone. Each league shortened their tether to court intrigues, lengthened shadow of unknown. At Maidenpool they found fishermen claiming ships glimpsed off Cape of Eagles. Black sails emblazoned with red kraken. Ironborn. Jon dispatched 2 riders to warn King's Landing, then pressed on, for every delay weighed against Benjen's fate. The air grew colder. Leaves turned orange though calendar swore summer. Farmers whispered of hoarfrost at dawn thick enough to silver corn. On 8th night they camped near the ruins of Queen's Crown. Jon prowled moss-clad stones, recalling tales old and then spun of northern kings. Ghost froze, ears pricked, then growled low. Figures approached from Trilene, rag-wrapped, bone necklaces rattling. Wildlings. Jon raised hand. Archers knocked but held. A woman stepped forward, hair red as sunset, axes at her belt. "You come from South Wall," she said, accent thick. "We smell king on you." "I am Jon Snow," he replied, letting false names slip easier than titles. "What brings you this far?" "The dead," she spat. "White shadows. They took my son. Blue eyes in darkness, sword of ice." Her voice cracked. "We seek warm lands. Let us pass." Jon's mind raced. Proof of threat could unify realm. Yet letting 100 wildlings cross might spark loyal lord's wrath. He chose risk. "Lay down arms. My men will guide you to Last Hearth, where Lord Umber will give shelter. You'll swear peace." He remembered Gretchen's fearsome bluster, but also Umber's regard for the king who spared their lands. The woman studied him, then tossed axe into grass. Others followed, weapons clattering. Eyeing them, Jon suspected many more lurked beyond. Still, gesture mattered. He sent Ser Jack Beach and 10 men to escort. As fires guttered later, he wondered if he'd condemned Umber Hall to ruin, or bought loyalty that coin could never match. Snowflakes fell by the time they sighted the wall. A pale line against horizon like chalk stroke across sky. Castle Black's towers jutted black-toothed silhouettes. Horns sounded from ramparts. Gates creaked wide. Jon felt heart leap as riders filed into the courtyard. Brothers swarmed. Ragged blacks, faces hollow with worry. Maester Aemon awaited atop steps, leaning on Gren's arm. At 90-plus winters, his cataract eyes milky, yet voice carried clear. "Jon," he greeted, smile soft. "The gods answer in their own hours." Jon dismounted, embracing the frail maester. Touching elder skin felt like clasping parchment centuries old. "I bring men, grain, dragonglass, and orders for double watch." He scanned yard. "Benjen." Faces fell. Dolorous Ed stepped forward. Rangers returned this morn, Thorn, Stone, and 4 lads. They found Benjen's cloak near a weirwood stump, soaked through, rent by claws.
No bodies.
Ghost whined, hackles bristling. Jon's throat tightened, but hope flickered. No body meant no death, yet. He convened council in the Lord Commander's chambers. Jeor Mormont's chair sat empty. He died months earlier of chill in lungs. Acting Commander Bowen Marsh described losses. 6 rangers slain, 3 deserted, wildlings massing at Frostfangs. Tracks of giants, mammoths, something larger still. Jon unrolled maps. "I march at dawn with 30 to find Benjen. We carry dragonglass daggers and wildfire vials." Marsh protested numbers too few. Jon argued stealth. Sam produced ravens for Eastwatch requesting galleys to ferry Queen's men from White Harbor. Night settled like cold blanket. Jon walked the wall, icy wind knifing through furs. Lanterns dotted top like faint stars. He gazed north. Vast white expanse, Trilene ragged, secrets coiled in dark hollows. Somewhere out there his uncle walked or lay. Steps approached, Tormund Giantsbane, flaming beard flecked with frost. He had come south with wildling refugees, surrendered spear upon crossing gate. Now he leaned on railing beside Jon, eyes narrowed. "You smell of king," he grumbled, "but carry wolf in heart." He spat over edge. "Dark grows thicker nightly. Walkers move. Your wall cracks with each breeze." Jon studied the giant of a man. "Will you guide me?" Tormund laughed like falling stones. "Guide a crow king? Maybe, but I want me people safe south. Those who follow Mance will flood soon. Your lords will burn us or we burn their hearths. Which you choose?" Jon breathed in ice-sharp air. "If the dead march, living must stand together. Help me prove threat, and I'll make realm see reason." Tormund's grin flashed. "Words taste sweet as mead. Show me deeds." He slapped Jon's shoulder. "I'll walk with you at dawn." The next day they rode through haunted forest beneath thin sun. Snow fell in fitful flurries, muffling hoofbeats. Jon's vanguard advanced in loose double column. Stark nights on shadow, Garrons pulling sleds of provisions, Night's Watch rangers cloaked black-gray. Ghosts scouted ahead, silent as breath. By midday they found first corpse. A wildling child frozen against trunk, face slack in death, eyes open. Jon knelt, pupils brown, not blue. He ordered burial beneath cairn, lips moving silent prayer. 3 miles farther, crows wheeled above a clearing. Broken pine boughs, churned snow, dark spatter frozen black. They found Benjen's second cloak clasp, wolf's head silver, snapped chain. Tracks everywhere. Human, giant, hooves of elk, and prints like talons of monstrous bird.
Some Dandmeisteres lens, studying grooves.
Dragged, he murmured. Body taken north. His voice shook. Tormund grunted. White's haul bodies to windy wastes. Make more. Jon's fist tightened around Longclaw. We follow. Snow deepened. Sky darkened early. They made camp among standing stones etched by first men. Fires hissed damp. Jon set triple watch. Night came haunting, whispering through bare limbs. Sam shivered while copying glyphs. Ed muttered of graves. Jon dreamed of twisting spires of ice, a heart beating inside a frozen tree, calling his name in ancient tongue. At pre-dawn hush ghost barked, a sound Jon heard only once before, on cold night when old bear's halls burned. Jon sprang upright, sword drawn. A shadow moved between trees. Tall, gaunt, eyes ablaze blue. Another behind, then more, ranks forming. Dead rangers, wildlings, even a giant with belly torn open, intestines trailing like icy ropes. Men scrambled. Jake thrust torch, flame sputtering. The dead advanced soundless, snow crunching beneath bare feet. Jon shouted, "Dragon glass!" Arrows tipped with black glass flew. Hiss, crack, each shard bursting icy flesh into shards of frost. 2 fell, limbs shattering. But giant swatted arrow aside, roaring a dead man's roar. His eyes glowed like moons. Tormund charged, axe blazing with pitchfire, carving into decayed giant knee. It staggered. A stark knight lunged with dragonglass spear, plunging into chest cavity. Explosive burst of snow and smoke. Giant collapsed, scattering bone chips. Yet more dead pressed. Benjen's squire Author among them, throat a red grin. Jon met him, Longclaw singing. Valyrian edge bit through pale flesh. Corpse screamed silent, split from collarbone to hip, falling in heap turned to steam. Out of dark glided a tall figure in armor of ice, spear glinting frost. A white walker, ghost leapt, spear flicked, missing by hair's breadth. Jon dashed, blade raised. The walker's eyes mirrored starlight. It parried with unnatural speed, spear haft ringing against Valyrian steel in shower of frost sparks. Cold radiated like winter storm. Jon's breath crystallized midair. He remembered Melisandre's vial. Retreating step, he yanked cork, splashed crimson oil on Longclaw. Blade drank flame, orange tongues licked rippled metal. Heat seared his glove, but he swung. The walker thrust, spear shattered on fiery steel. Jon's backswing sliced torso. Creature exploded into shards, light extinguished. Silence crashed after. Snow drifted through shining fragments. Surviving corpses collapsed inert. Only crackle of flames and ragged breathing remained. At dawn they counted losses. 5 men down, 2 of Jon's, 3 black brothers. Bodies burned before eyes could turn. Yet they gained proof. Sam dissected walker shard, preserving sliver in ice chest. Tormund hauled severed hand still twitched with cold blue glow. Benjen yet unfound, but Jon felt time short. If walkers moved at will, wall must be reinforced now. They returned to Castle Black to find columns of northern soldiers streaming through tunnel. Robb Stark had arrived with 2,000 ahead of schedule. Ranks of Karstarks, Manderleys, Umbers stood bristling with spears. Robb embraced Jon, eyes shining with fierce pride, then paled hearing tale. Together they ascended wall. Wind cut sharp, but brotherly warmth shielded. Jon gazed south, realm beneath his charge. He envisioned letter to council, proof of others, alliance of living. Tywin might scoff Cersei's scheme, but swords would follow truth when shown. Robb spoke softly. The north is yours if you ask. Men chant your name. Jon shook head. The throne binds me south. You are Winterfell. Robb smiled, snow catching in red whiskers. Then Winterfell shoulders half your burden. They clasped hands above dizzy drop. Below, fires burned, smoke curling into pale sky. Black brothers drilled with northern archers. Wildling tents dotted slopes, guarded yet unharmed. An impossible host forged from foes by fear of greater shadow. Jon felt weight steadier than before, not lighter, but shared. The road ahead stretched frozen and perilous, yet flame flickered now within blade and heart alike. He turned toward rising sun, a pale disk behind veil of cloud, and whispered oath older than kingdom, taught to him by father beneath weirwood boughs, to guard the realms of men. The sun climbed higher, feeble warmth kissing icicles. Somewhere beyond farthest horizon, dragons wheeled aloft in waking heat. Somewhere deeper still, a night king stirred. Between those fires and frozen tombs stood a young king cloaked in wolf and stag, white wolf at his heel, ready to forge dawn from steel and flame. The long night had not yet fallen, but its shadows marched, and Jon Baratheon, born snow, raised Stark, crowned Targaryen heir, would meet them in the cold light of a new day, sword blazing, heart unbroken, for the realm and all the souls it harbored beneath fragile skies. Snow muffled every sound save the rasp of breath and the slow, deliberate creak of leather as Jon eased Longclaw free of its sheath. In the half-light cast by a failing pale sun, the forest around the abandoned wildling village looked like some forgotten chapel carved of hoarfrost. Spruce branches sagged under crystal weight, and every broken spar of the crude palisade glittered like the finest Myrish glass. The place lay deathly still, yet deep under the silence he felt something pulse, like a distant heartbeat buried in ice. He motioned the vanguard to fan out. 40 paces to his left, Tormund's silhouette loomed, axe head resting across one enormous shoulder. Straight ahead, Ghost padded, no more than a smear of white across white, vanishing and reappearing between drifts like a living wisp of breath. They had ridden hard north of the Milkwater for 3 relentless days, guided by scraps of broken trail Benjen's mount had left in crusted snow and the half-coherent babblings of a wildling survivor found staggering south with frostbitten feet. 200 men rode behind Jon now, stark bannermen whose faces still bore the flush of southern hearths, black brothers hollow-cheeked from long watch, and a scattering of spearwives desperate to earn safe passage for their families. They had already shed blood together, and in those harsh leagues the tangled lines of oaths and old hatreds had blurred. A ranger's cloak kept a northern knight's shoulders warm. A wildling bowman huddled beneath it when the wind cut utterly through flesh. The black brothers muttered half-prayers to the seven, while a red priestess held aloft her crimson ruby and spoke of R'hlloreth's fire. Only the cold cared nothing for their treasons and their uneasy truces. It gnawed at every man, drawing heat from veins, numbing fingers on sword hilts. The village's crude main longhouse lay canted against itself like an exhausted beast. The door yawned inward, blacker than evening, and a gust of iron-scented air drifted out. Jon stepped inside ahead of the others, Ghost slipping between his legs. At first he saw only shifting gray shapes. Then his pupils widened, and the shapes resolved into frozen corpses seat-bound along both walls. 13 men and women lashed upright with leather thongs, faces blue-tinged, eyes wide. No marks marred them save for an odd pattern of gray scratches across their brows. 3 lines slanted like a rune. Their hands rested upon knees in a grotesque parody of supplication. At the room's far end a wide mound of packed snow hunched before the cold hearth, and something dark lay half-buried within it. Jon's breath surged in his lungs, steaming. He lifted the visor of his light helm. Beyond the mound he glimpsed pale fur, then black cloth stiff with blood. He knew the boots even before the flicker of a torn Night's Watch cloak confirmed his dread. Benjen Stark lay upon his side, throat red-rimed, eyes closed. His skin had not gone the waxy cyan of the others, but neither did his chest rise. Only a thin crust of rime along lashes suggested the passing hours. Jon knelt, laid 2 trembling fingers beneath his uncle's jaw. For 3 heartbeats he felt nothing, and a howl began low in his belly. Then, faint under thick gloves, came a tremor, the weakest flutter of pulse imaginable. He looked up sharply. "Maester," he rasped. Sam Tarly stumbled forward, fumbling through his satchel with clumsy haste. He and Clydas had fashioned a traveling kit of boiled needle, warmed wine, powdered willow bark. Now Sam pressed a slender glass vial between cracked lips and gently lifted Benjen's head. Bitter smoke of strong bark tincture drifted upward. Tormund shuffled in, crowding the doorway. "By the tits of a giantess," he muttered. "What devilry binds these others?" Jon studied the corpses lashed along the wall. Their eyes, the irises had filmed over, not blue like the moving dead, but pearly, lifeless. A different horror. He rose and approached one. A rail-thin man whose beard still held beads bound with bone. Those scratches across his brow fresh, deep as though carved with a knife of ice. Melisandre glided into the chamber, torch raised. The flame crackled wildly, and its glow danced across the dead faces. She murmured a prayer, the Valyrian sounds harsh in the hush. The ruby at her throat throbbed faint crimson. "It is a sigil," she whispered. 3 marks. Mark of the other's king, perhaps. A claim set upon corpses awaiting awakening. Jon shivered. Yet they did not rise when we entered. The magic may be unfinished. Her gaze fixed on Benjen. They needed a soul still tethered, a heart beating slow as winter wolves. When it stopped, they would claim him. "Not while I draw breath," Jon snarled. He sheathed Longclaw, unfastened his thick wolfskin cloak, and wrapped it around his uncle's torso. Sam crunched a black-bone tinder, holding it to Benjen's lips. Faint steam curled as the stimulant took hold. After a long moment, a cough hacked free of Benjen's chest, weak but real. His eyelids fluttered, revealing pupils clouded by pain yet aware. "Jon?" he wheezed. "I'm here." Jon's voice cracked. "Rest. We ride south soon." Benjen's gaze flicked to the roped corpses, then to the Red Woman. "They chanted, in the dark, took my men." He swallowed almost convulsively. "The Night King wants a Stark." Melisandre's eyes shone like living coals. "Blood of the wolf, yes, spoken of in flame." Jon shook off prickle of dread. "Leave prophecy. We must clear this place before dusk." But dusk had already stolen on silent feet. Outside the longhouse, the forest had transformed. What had been a dull overcast had thickened into swirling cobalt clouds that blotted out the failing light. Flakes the size of coppers whirled down, strange and silent, spinning in tight spirals as though obeying a hidden breath. Jon felt the hairs of his nape stiffen. No wind stirred the trees, yet the snow whipped this way and that in little vortices. Rangers scouted the perimeter. One blew 2 sharp blasts on his horn. Shapes moved just beyond the treeline, tall, gaunt, pale as chalk. The others assembled in a perfect crescent, their armor faintly luminous. At their center sat a figure astride an ice-hewn horse, antlered helm carved of purest opal. The Night King. Blue fire burned in the icelets, steady as a distant star. He raised one gloved hand. A low note rolled across the glade, neither howl nor scream, more like the deep vibration of a frozen lake under shifting ice. At once the dead bound in the longhouse ripped free of their leather bonds as though granted new breath. 13 corpses lurched to their feet, jaws cracking. Through the door frame Jon watched them stagger into view, forming a line between living men and others. Benjen tried to rise, but collapsed in Sam's grip. Jon glimpsed his uncle's desperate struggle. With a curse he strode to the doorway, Longclaw aflame with the red oil's ember edge. "Spears!" he shouted. Shields came forward, round Northman wooden discs rimmed by iron, patched hides of wildlings, black brother targe cobbled from oaken planks. The living formed a ragged half-circle. Outside the circle, Melisandre lifted torch to the air, its flame elongated, turning an impossible shade of gold. A searing column shot up, melting snow mid-fall, and for a heartbeat Jon's vision flooded white. When sight returned, he saw Tormund crash his burning axe through a corpse's collar. The dead man burst in shards. Its neighbor stooped to snatch a blade of rusted bronze from the snow and drove it into a ranger's thigh. Jon met the next one, severing its arm. Blue mist hissed from the wound. Yet even destroyed wights were no more than fodder. Beyond them the others stood untouched, frost blades glimmering faintly as they absorbed the torch glow. Jon's scouts loosed flaming arrows. The shafts fizzled on the other's armor, extinguished on contact. The Night King nudged his mount forward. Hooves crunched snow with the soft click of breaking glass. A hush fell, one of those terrible eternal heartbeats where fate balances on a hair. Jon found himself stepping clear of the skirmish, sword high, breath racing plumes into the air so cold it sliced lungs. The Night King halted 10 paces away. No word passed, yet Jon sensed offer, challenge, perhaps. 2 kings, 2 crowns of ice and iron. "You'll not have him," Jon said, pulse hammering like the war drums of old Valyria. He lifted Longclaw in both hands, and the faint trace of red oil flared into sudden white-hot blaze, a tongue of fire racing the length of the blade. The Night King spread his fingers wide, conjuring crackling frost that crawled up the haft of the spear he bore. The spear's blade erupted into living ice, edges jagged with growing crystals. They closed at once. The spear etched a perfect arc through the air. Longclaw met it in ringing clash. Steam billowed where fire kissed frozen steel. The sound shivered through every marrow in the clearing. Sparks of blue frost and orange flame spiraled outward, clinging to fur and armor alike. Jon felt numbness gnaw into his fingers through the hilt. The Night King glowed with internal chill so intense it radiated waves. Their blades met again, sliding off each other with shriek like rending glass. Jon pivoted, drawing on every lesson Roderick, Syrio, and Brienne had ever hammered into his bones. Keep weight low, shield your opening, strike for joints, then we'll clear. The Night King moved preternaturally fast for so massive a figure, yet there was a pattern, an elegance more than speed. Jon feinted high, ducked under the backhand slice, and slashed at the steed's foreleg. Hot steel bit ice bone. The mount screamed a soundless scream, crashing to one knee. The Night King rolled free in a swirl of frost. Ghost barreled in from nowhere, jaws clamping at a trailing cloak of frozen mist. The jaws met substance. White teeth sheared cloth yet found no flesh. A backhand blow sent the direwolf skidding, yelping, but Ghost rose at once. Lips peeled to show gums foamed with blood. He circled. Jon advanced. Beneath snow, earth tremored. The Night King straightened, bronze spear whistling in his fist, and thrust. Jon leapt aside, felt the ice blade kiss steel gorget and sear a thin line like plunge into liquid cold. Pain blossomed, but he forced it down, counterswung. Longclaw caught the spear, snapped its tip. In the same motion he kicked, boot connecting with the Night King's breastplate. A clang, a recoil, like striking an anvil at winter's heart. But the figure slid back 2 steps in the snow. For an instant both stood breathing hard, Jon inhaling ragged air, frost smoking from helmet slit. The Night King utterly silent, but faint cracks traced the breastplate where Jon's boot had landed. The blue burning eyes dimmed, then flared. He reached out with one long hand. The spear shards Jon had shattered flung from the ground and whirled into air, swirling fury of glass-edged shrapnel. Jon braced. Before he could blink, Melisandre's voice rose behind him in a high, fierce chant, and a wall of living flame erupted between the 2 kings. Taller than pines, white at its heart, curving like a serpent. Spear shards melted mid-flight, dripping molten rain. The Night King recoiled, cloak cracking. In the searing glare, Jon glimpsed the fissure spreading across that opal helm. The Night King's figure blurred into drifting snow smoke. There, then gone, dissolving like mist under sudden sunrise. The others melted too. Armored silhouettes fell apart into slush. The whites collapsed as strings cut. Silence slammed shut. Jon staggered, suddenly weak. Flame guttered low. Ice hissed in the shadows where the spell had ended. Around him the living men stared, some on knees, some with faces streaked by tears of terror. Sam lowered his blade, shaking. Tormund bellowed triumph, then collapsed onto a stump, chest heaving. But the forest was empty. No blue eyes glimmered, no frost armor rose. The Night King had retreated into secrecy. Sam wiped a trembling hand across his brow. He could have killed us all.
No, Melisandre whispered.
Not before marking his prey. Her gaze flicked to Jon, then to Benjen, still cradled near the fire, shivering in recovering warmth. He wanted blood of the wolf, taken for his ritual, its power greater than that of a dozen nameless wildlings. Jon felt an icy finger down his spine. He'll try again. Yes, she murmured, but he has felt flame. He will remember pain. They burned the corpses well into dawn, stacking wood high, dousing each heap with the dregs of lamp oil. The smell of scorched flesh mingled with pine resin and the sharp tang of melting ice. Benjen slept fitfully under heavy furs, pulse strengthening. When at last the sun limped over the horizon, an anemic orb smothered by low clouds, the party broke camp in grim quiet. No songs, no boasts. The memory of blue fire needed none. Jon ordered a swift but cautious retreat toward the wall, sending Ghost ahead as outrider. Hour by hour Benjen's breathing steadied. He regained consciousness before noon, sipped thin broth, murmured his thanks. He spoke little, eyes haunted by whatever he had endured. Yet when he did speak, he told of a fortress of black ice hidden deep among high peaks, where ravens picked at frozen corpses and pale spiders wove webs between ramparts of frost. He whispered of an inner sanctum carved in spirals, its walls pulsing with what felt like silent heartbeats. Of a throne of ice where the Night King sat unmoving, as if listening to voices rising from the roots of the earth. A throne waiting not merely for victory, but for something older. Near sunset the company crested a ridge, and the wall loomed again. Shimmering under pale light, sentinel of an age the South had all but forgotten. Horns on its height called them home. Rangers ran to bear Benjen inside, and when the inner gates slammed shut, Jon allowed the full tremor of fatigue. His wound, a shallow line on the neck, burned like a brand. Clydas cleaned it with cotton soaked in boiled wine, muttered about frostbite that behaved more like burn. In the common hall, Jon convened Robb, Bowen Marsh, Melisandre, Sam, and Tormund. Fire snapped in a long stone hearth. Mulled wine steamed. A hush settled as Jon unrolled fresh parchment. This shall be carried to King's Landing by Raven within the hour. He wrote in bold strokes while he spoke, every phrase hammered by memory of the Night King's gaze. To Eddard Stark, Lord Regent, and the full council presently governing the realm. The threat beyond the wall is no tale for children. I have faced its king on frozen ground north of the Milkwater. His army of the dead moves with purpose, marking the living in rituals unknown. Dragonglass wounds him. Valyrian steel burns with red oil anointment prepared by the Red Priests. Fire from Lawloress servants holds the walkers at bay, but only barely. Benjen Stark lives, injured but of sound mind, rescued from a ritual circle wherein 13 wildlings were transformed into wights with runes of 3 slashes across their brows. The Night King seeks blood of the wolf. Whether prophecy or power, he will try again. I therefore request immediate dispatch of every obsidian blade Dragonstone can spare, along with smiths skilled to forge dragonglass arrowheads on the wall. A levy of 10,000 seasoned men, drawn from Vale, Riverlands, and Stormlands under Stannis' banner, to be garrisoned at Shadow Tower and Eastwatch. More will be needed in time. Full consent of every major house to allow wildling refugees south under conditions of peace. They may be raw recruits or laborers, but they must not stand between walkers and our rear. The forging of a grand alliance with Daenerys Targaryen, Mother of Dragons. Her flames may be decisive. I place my royal seal upon this letter and entrust its truth to Maester Aemon, whose honor none doubt. Delay will doom us all. Jon, King of the Undulls, the Royner, and the First Men, protector of the realm. He dripped wax, pressed the direwolf stag. Robb took the cylinder, eyes fierce. "We'll make them heed, brother. Father will." Bowen Marsh cleared throat. 10,000 men may not traverse the King's Road before the snows close the neck. "They will," Jon said. "Or they will die south when winter reaches them." He leaned forward. "Begin training every recruit with dragonglass. Number your arrows. Break old weapons if iron's short. Shafts can be reused." Melisandre's ruby pulsed. The flames show a wall of fire reaching from Eastwatch to the Frostfangs, soaring high, keeping darkness at bay. Whether that fire be dragons or sorcery, I cannot tell. You must decide. Jon rubbed temple. "I sent a raven to Daenerys weeks ago. No answer yet. She may distrust me." Tormund spat into the fire. "Dragon Queen's trust costs less than dead king's mercy. Bring her north. Let her see what eats our bones." Sam cleared his throat timidly. "My research, ancient annals speak of a binding horn, Horn of Joramun, that can call giants or break the wall depending on tale. If the others seek to tear the wall down, they may hunt that horn." Robb grimaced. "If such a thing exists, we must find it first." Jon nodded. "At first light, I lead a scouting column south to Long Barrow and the Antler River, where first men barrows cluster. Benjen remains to heal and advise Marsh. Tormund, will your men guide us?" "Some will," the wildling rumbled. "Others will shit themselves, but I will march." Giantsbane follows where the Wolf King leads. Melisandre rose, hair a spill of red silk. "And the Lord of Light's fire marches beside him." She lifted the ruby. Its glow seemed to breathe. That night, as campfires flickered along the base of the wall and shadows danced like restless ghosts along ramparts, Jon stood on the tower walkway and looked south. He imagined the raven winging toward Ned, carrying news that would either weld the realm into single purpose or fracture it under weight of fear. Far beyond, in distant King's Landing, he pictured Tywin's cold golden stare reading the words, Renly's easy smile fading, Cersei's green eyes narrowing. And farther still, somewhere across the wash of black water, a silver-haired queen might unroll his other letter and wonder whether alliance was worth the risk. Ghost pressed wet nose to his wrist. Jon scratched behind an ear. Above them, stars shone brittle and sharp. He knew only a handful of constellations this far north, but one, an old First Men pattern called the Sword That Burns, stretched exactly where the sky darkened deepest. It looked nothing like a sword, merely 3 uneven stars in a line. Yet tonight it seemed brighter, as if acknowledging some cosmic forging yet to come. Jon whispered to the night, "I am the shield that guards." The old words felt both too small and impossibly vast. He had taken a crown, but the old vows endured in marrow. He breathed once, twice, and allowed himself to feel fear, not to flee it, but to study its shape. He imagined a wall of dragon flame roaring across the frozen wastes, the Night King's helm exploding in shards, the dead crumbling where they stood. He imagined Daenerys's dragons sweeping low, their cries ripping open the dark, and he imagined the Southern Lords, Tyrell, Martell, Aeron, even Cersei's last loyalists, standing shoulder to shoulder with wildling spearwives and black brothers, bound by a single searing imperative: live. He did not know if such a dream could bloom in Westeros's age-old soil, but tomorrow he would ride again into the White, searching for a horn of legend, trusting wolves and giants, priests and old friends, trusting the fragile allegiance of 100 hearts. Somewhere in the forest, a horn called once, lonely, endless. It echoed across the dead calm, reverberating through the bones of Weirwood sentinels. And it did not sound like a ranger's horn or that of any man on watch. It sounded older. It sounded like the earth itself warning of something waking. Jon's breath caught. He strained to listen, hand tightening on the cold stone merlin. Ghost's fur bristled, his own throat vibrating with a low growl. But the horn call never came again. Instead, a hush descended, deeper than the hush of snow. Stars glimmered unchanged. Wind nipped. Somewhere below, Benjen stirred in a fevered dream. The realm breathed, suspended between dawn and doom. John turned from the parapet and descended the stair with purpose in each step. Tomorrow would come swift. 10,000 tasks clamored. Yet as he walked, he found himself repeating a whisper taught by old Nan. Fear is for the winter, when the snows fall 100 feet deep. He smiled grimly. Winter had come. He walked to meet it,